Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're not just skimming the surface. We are really diving headfirst into a very specific area of international law. We're looking at intercountry adoption procedures, specifically when the child is habitually resident in Zambia. If you've ever been curious about what navigating one of these really structured, multi-step international legal processes actually involves, well, this is for you. Our mission today is to unpack that entire sequence. We're talking initial checks, all the way to final international recognition. And we're focusing hard on the rules set by the Zambian Central Authority, that's the Commissioner for Juvenile Welfare. It's all about following the steps in order.
Exactly. That procedural compliance is key. We're working inside a pretty strict framework here, international conventions. So in Zambia, intercountry adoption, or BZA, means adopting a child who normally lives in Zambia by parents living in another country. And because it crosses borders, the legal hurdles are higher. It's all geared towards the child's best interests and making sure that final adoption order is solid, legally speaking, everywhere.
Right, that sets the stage perfectly. The stakes are definitely global here. So before anyone even gets their paperwork looked at, the prospective adoptive parents, the PAPs, they have to qualify, right? Let's get into Section 1, eligibility and the dossier. What's the absolute minimum they need to even start?
Yeah, the initial bar is set quite high. It really centers on stability, capacity, and maturity. The criteria is sort of split. If you're related to the child, you need to be at least 21 years old. But if it's an unrelated adoption, the standard's tougher. You have to be 25 and at least 21 years older than the child.
21 years older. That's a significant gap for unrelated adoptions. It definitely suggests they're looking for, well, maturity and stability. Why that specific number, 21 years? Is that common or more unique to Zambia?
Well, minimum age gaps do vary globally, but yeah, the 21-year difference in Zambia's rules is a specific way they measure generational readiness. It implies the parent has, lived long enough to show they're capable, financially stable. And if you're applying as a couple, you must be legally married. Simple as that. And the application has to be joint. Also, at least one of the spouses needs to meet that age requirement, the 25 and the 21-year difference rule.
Okay, so beyond age and marital status, the checks go deeper into character and the home environment. Is that right? That bit about household members really jumped out from the source material.
Oh, absolutely. The capacity checks are pretty exhaustive. Financially, obviously, you need to show you can support the child. And you have to demonstrate genuine parenting capacity, not just the desire. Character-wise, yes, a clean police record for you. But here's the critical point you flagged. No member of your household can have a criminal conviction. It's not just the PAPs who need to be clear. The whole environment the child is entering has to be safe and legally sound.
Wow, that really broadens the scope of the background check, doesn't it? And then there's also the health and knowledge aspect.
Yes. Good health is a must, declared fit to adopt through a medical exam. And importantly, the PAPs need to be fully informed about the adoption process in general, but also specifically informed about the culture, the lifestyle of a child adopted from Zambia. And that information needs to come from their own country's central authority or accredited body. It means you really need to grasp the cultural heritage you're becoming responsible for.
Okay, so let's say a prospective parent manages to clear this pretty high bar. Step 1 is getting assessed by their home country's central authority, which results in the home study report, the dossier.
Right.
Then that dossier gets sent to Zambia. That's Step 2. When you look at all the documents needed for that dossier, what stands out as maybe the most specific or potentially tricky for someone applying from overseas?
Well, the list itself is like a checklist of commitment, really. You've got the basics: ID, proof of where you live, income proof, marital status, certified copies of marriage or divorce papers. But the real gatekeepers, I think, are two specifics. First, the medical report. It must come from a government medical institution. This isn't just a note from any doctor. It's about ensuring authenticity, minimizing the chance of fake medical clearances.
Hold on, a medical report from a government clinic, not just a private doctor, that could actually be a logistical challenge for PAPs, couldn't it? It might mean extra travel or hassle depending on their own country's system.
Exactly right. It just shows the level of scrutiny the Zambian authorities demand. And the second tricky one is the character reference. You need a reference from someone of good standing who has known you for over 5 years. This stops people getting quick, maybe superficial references. It demands proof of long-term, verifiable good character.
Yeah, that kind of detail, plus the police clearance, it really filters people out. You have to be completely committed to this whole rigorous process. And then there are those two final specialized documents needed for the letter of intention to adopt.
Correct. The dossier also has to include the assessment report from the competent authority in the receiving country. basically proof the other country did its homework. And crucially, a certificate showing you've attended training, preparation, or counseling courses. The Zambian authority wants proof the applicants haven't just, skimmed a brochure. They need to see active preparation for the realities of intercountry adoption.
Okay, so this huge, meticulously checked dossier passes muster in the receiving country and finally lands with the Commissioner for Juvenile Welfare in Zambia. Let's move into Section 2 then. The authority review and matching process. What actually happens in Step 3, that review phase?
So step 3 is the receipt and detailed review. The commissioner goes through everything again, the home study, medicals, references, checking it all against those specific Zambian criteria we talked about. It's like a second layer of vetting. If anything's missing or doesn't quite meet the standard, they provide feedback, but it goes through the central authority of the receiving state. Keeps everything transparent and by the book.
So Zambia is acting like the final quality check, making sure the receiving state didn't miss any vital local requirements.
Okay.
Assuming the applicant passes that check, Step 4 is the big one, emotionally and legally, the matching stage.
Step 4 is, where a specific child comes into the picture. It involves the matching itself and then issuing the report on the child. This is often called the Article 16 report, and it legally confirms the child is actually adoptable. Once the commissioner makes that match, the PAPs are told, and then they have to formally tell the commissioner, yes, we agree to proceed with this child. That agreement falls under Article 17 of the Convention framework.
Okay, the paperwork's moving, a match is made. But then we hit a really major checkpoint, Step 5, before the PAPs even think about booking flights. What's that crucial document that confirms the international side is ready?
Yes, that would be the receipt of the Article 5 letter from the receiving state. And honestly, this might be the single biggest hurdle before anyone travels. The Article 5 letter is basically the international guarantee. It has to formally confirm two key things to Zambia. First, that the PAPs are suitable and eligible to adopt that specific matched child. And second, this is vital that the child will be eligible to migrate to the receiving state and get citizenship or permanent residency once the adoption is done.
Right, so Zambia is essentially saying, look, we won't let our child travel to you, even for bonding, until you guarantee they have a legal pathway to stay there permanently. That protects the child from ending up in some kind of legal limbo, or worse, facing deportation later on.
Exactly. If that immigration guarantee isn't locked down, the whole process just stops right there. It's only after the commissioner gets and validates that Article 5 letter that the prospective parents actually get invited to travel to Zambia, meet the child, and start the supervised bonding period.
That's a really powerful insight into how international law really tries to prioritize the child's long-term security. Okay, let's move into Section 3, the mandatory bonding period and final legalization. The PAPs have landed in Zambia. What's the very first legal step on the ground, and how long are they committed to being there?
The time commitment is significant, and it's mandatory. 3 months minimum. Step 6 is how this period legally starts. The child is officially placed into the care and possession of the PAPs, but it's done via a court order. This initial order grants temporary custody specifically for supervision, and it marks the official start date of that mandatory 3-month supervisory or bonding period.
Got it. So that first court order isn't the final adoption, it's custody for the purpose of bonding and supervision. That's a key difference.
Precisely. It's temporary custody, allows for observation. And right after that court order, some admin kicks in immediately. Step 7 means the PAPs have to submit Form 1, that's the notice of adoption, straight away to the commissioner. This makes sure the central authority is formally aware the placement has happened and can oversee the supervision.
And submitting that form then leads directly to Step 8, which seems to kind of cement the official start of the countdown clock.
It does, yeah. Step 8 is when the commissioner issues the effective date of notice. This is the formal nod that the bonding period is officially underway, and the legal process is cleared to move towards finalization, assuming the supervision goes well. The 90-day clock is definitely ticking.
Okay, so 3 months go by. Supervision reports are done, the PAPs and the child have bonded, now things move back to the courts for the final, permanent legal decision.
That brings us to Step 9, filing the application for the actual adoption order at the court. And crucially, this can only be done after that mandatory 3-month supervisory period is fully completed. You can't rush it. Then Step 10 is the court appearance itself, the hearing, and hopefully the formal granting of the adoption order. This is what establishes permanent legal parenthood under Zambian law.
Once that final adoption order is granted by the court, the Zambian legal side is almost done, but there are still a few admin steps left to make it all official. official.
That's right. Step 11 is the immediate admin task for recognition within Zambia. All the key documents go to the Registrar General. Usually this is handled through the Commissioner's office for the adoption to be registered, and then they issue the official adoption certificate. That's the proof of the legal status change within the sending country, Zambia.
Which finally brings us to the last piece of paper, the really important one that makes sure this whole long process is recognized internationally. Step 12.
Step 12 is the big one for crossing borders. The issuance of the Article 23 letter by the Zambian Central Authority. This letter is the ultimate international seal of approval. It confirms the adoption was done strictly according to the Hague Convention rules, validating the legality and the process followed. This document, the Article 23 letter, must be recognized by any other country signed up to the convention. It ensures the adoption is valid globally. It's like the child's international legal passport, guaranteeing their status.
And just to quickly touch on that inversion note again, if the situation were reversed, PAPs in Zambia adopting from another country, Zambia would just take on the role of the receiving state in this process. But the actual sequence, those 12 steps, the flow of documents and approvals, that basically stays the same, right?
Precisely. The core structure holds. The sending state handles the child's legal status change. The receiving state guarantees their migration rights. But the steps themselves are the blueprint for compliance, no matter which country is sending and which is receiving.
So this whole deep dive really shows that inter-country adoption, at least via Zambia, is just fundamentally defined by sticking to a strict step-by-step chronological process. Every single stage from, where you have to get your medical report to that mandatory 3-month bonding, it's all designed like a guardrail to ensure suitability, capacity, and legal soundness across different countries.
Yeah, and the sheer level of detail, especially making that distinction between the initial placement order for bonding and the final adoption order, plus needing both the Article 5 and Article 23 letters, it really highlights a critical principle in international family law. The child's legal status can't be ambiguous, not at any point. The procedure is overwhelmingly focused on making sure the placement is stable, it's safe, and it's legally watertight in two different legal systems at the same time.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. Considering just how complex these legal steps are to get that final Article 23 letter, the one ensuring international recognition, how does that initial concept, habitual residence, the thing that decides which country is the sending state in the first place, how does that fundamentally shape international family law even beyond adoption? Is that focus on residence rather than, say, nationality, defining the future of how we think about global legal responsibilities for children? Something to mull over until our next deep dive.